Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Empowered Indie Artist podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Becky. I'm a music producer and audio engineer. I'm also a mentor and coach for artists who are trying to find their path in today's music industry as an independent artist. Today's video, I want to talk to you about the difference between booking a studio versus hiring a producer. Oh, and by the way, that's Annie just hanging out back there. There's a really big difference between wanting to step into a studio and just capture what is happening with your song as musicians and as a band versus being an artist who doesn't play all the instruments, doesn't have a band, needs to hire a producer. You also have to look at the financial difference. You could book a studio for, an all-day rate, which could be like 8 hours for, pretty cheap. And then you're comparing that to hiring a producer, which might be more like $1,500 a song to $3,000 a song. You might say, oh, I can't afford a producer, so I'm going to book a studio. But they really accomplish very different things. So I wanted to go through the differences. All right, booking a studio. Recording studios are really about capturing a snapshot of what you are bringing to them. So if you have a crappy sounding acoustic guitar and you go to this really nice fancy studio and you're using a $6,000 microphone or a $10,000 microphone or all these fancy recording preamps, you're still going to have a crappy sounding guitar because your guitar is crappy sounding. They cannot make a crappy sounding guitar sound beautiful. If your singing is mediocre, your mediocre singing is going to sound really silky smooth through nice gear, but it's still going to be mediocre singing. So a lot of times people go to a recording studio just thinking that maybe they can pump out as much as they can in a day rate, and yet if the quality of what's coming out isn't that great, the end product is not going to be that great. 2, a commercial recording studio usually has larger acoustically treated spaces for the best quality you can get, specifically for recording instruments like drums or string ensembles or choirs. So like if you're a producer like me, I'm working out of a room that's acoustically treated to dampen reflection off of the walls as best they can, but I do not have a great sounding room where you could just be like, oh, listen to that beautiful warm sound. I've gone through a lot of expense and effort to deaden the sound in here, so there's really no beautiful warm sound that you're going to get. So if you wanted to record an orchestra or even like a string quartet, I would probably say let's go to a studio where they have a beautiful room that sounds beautiful. Number 3, a recording studio usually has a control room, which is where the engineer is sitting at the recording console and the artist or musician is in a separate room viewed through a glass window. This separation, again, creates the best possible acoustic setup, but sometimes it can feel like you're a little detached. The artist and engineer can feel like they're kind of in different worlds. Number 4, the studio usually has at least one, but often several engineers who will do the recording. Now, this engineer can range from a beginning level intern to genius wizard and everything in between. You may find your favorite engineer and prefer to work with that engineer in particular, or like to change it up depending on what you're looking for. Number 5, your engineer may or may not be a producer or arranger. Don't assume that they will be. Now, what I mean by that is let's say you book a studio for a 4-hour time slot and you come to them thinking they're going to help you make your instrumental track, you don't know if they can even do that. So that would be something that you would need a producer to do if you're not the one creating all of the music yourself. Number 6, there's a good chance your engineer will not care if your song sucks. you show up with your song that says, I can't believe you broke my heart. I should have known from the start. They may not say anything about it. Remember, they're really just focused on capturing a snapshot. Um, Same thing, they may not really tell you if your singing is good or bad. I've had many artists tell me that while I may not have the nicest gear or the most beautiful studio setup or be the most talented producer, they love coming to work with me because I'm very engaged in what they're doing as a vocalist, how they're delivering the lyrics, how their diction is coming across. If it sounds like they're straining, I can vocally help them because I was a vocal coach for 30 years. So if you go to a studio, there's a very good chance that engineer is going to be like, record, and you could say, well, was that good? And they may be like, yeah, it sounded good to me. They may say that. They may give you a little suggestion here and there, but you cannot depend on the fact that they're actually going to be a creative, collaborative partner with you that really cares about the end product. They may, but don't count on that, okay? Number 7, the cost of the studio and engineer are usually separate. So the studio space might cost $75 an hour and the engineer may cost an additional $100 an hour. Just be sure to double check before booking. This is especially something to consider when you are booking like a day rate. Oh, you can have the studio all day long for $300. If it doesn't say including the engineer, it probably doesn't. So make sure that you have figured that into your budget. Number 8, you can usually get block deals at a studio like I've mentioned. And this means you can book the studio for a whole day, including engineer for a discounted hourly rate. This can be great for bands who are really well rehearsed and want to record as a band at once with very little overdubbing. Now, the danger in doing block deals is that bands usually try to squeeze in as much as they can in that time. By the end of a 12-hour session, your singer may have lost their voice, or everyone is just flat out exhausted, or even too drunk or stoned. What happens at the end of the block could be quite different than what happens at the beginning of the block. Another deal studios sometimes have is something like record your song for $100, which might actually mean we're taking a snapshot of what you give us, which, see number 1, and we only have 2 hours to do it in, so let's hurry. And what you'll have in the end might be a nicely recorded demo, but not a song that's ready to release commercially. And number 9, the studio may include mastering, but may not. Just be sure to check. Okay, hiring a producer. Now, a producer is often the person doing all of the arranging and orchestrating. And what this means is that your producer needs to have an understanding of exactly who you are as an artist and what your sonic vision is for your music. This means a lot of communication and not just I'm going to show up and record. Your producer is a creative collaborator with you and not just hitting record. It's a big difference. Number 2, a producer is like the sculptor of your sound. The importance of open, respectful, and honest communication both ways is of utmost importance. A producer who gets offended if you don't like something or who doesn't seem to get you, air quotes, means you will be compromising every little decision about your song until at the end you don't love what you have. And so you have to find a producer that you can trust and that listens to you. And you need to be open to their ideas and suggestions as well. Number 3, a producer is often the one recording and mixing everything. Sometimes they outsource the mixing, but a lot of times they are doing the recording. Make sure they have a good quality sound coming from their productions. Listen to their past works and make sure it lines up with your quality standard. Number 4, a producer is usually working out of a home studio. Make sure their recording space is comfortable and has a good vibe. While home recording spaces certainly won't be as epic as a huge recording studio, there should still be a sense of professionalism and order in their studio. If it's messy or uncomfortable or hot or really cold or anything like that, then you won't be comfortable recording and may not give your best performances. Number 5, oftentimes a home studio doesn't have a separate control room, which means leave your friends at home. The more people in the room where you are recording, the more chance there is that your producer will have to keep shushing your friends, which is not fun, take it from me, or, it just makes everyone feel uncomfortable and awkward. Number 6, a producer should be interested in elevating the bones of your song, which is another way of saying the lyrics and melody. A great producer will want the song to be the best it can be, and they know that the greatest arrangement and production won't fix a poorly written song. So more often than not, a producer is really interested in going over your song with a fine-tooth comb. Your lyrics, your melody, are they the absolute best they can be? Number 7, if you love the producer's arrangement but the final mix and master are not at the quality you want, it is 100% acceptable to ask them to outsource the mixing and mastering, or ask them to send you the stems, which has become the term for individually recorded tracks in your songs, so that you can find someone else to mix and master the song. You should have the conversation at the beginning of the process of recording. If they say they mix their productions but they outsource the mastering, then when you have the final mix from them and it's just a matter of, well, it just needs to be a little louder, that's mastering. If it needs just that final polish, that's mastering. That is something they were already intending on outsourcing. But if you're like, I cannot get them to get my vocals to sound right, or, the blend, the overall balance of everything to be what I want, they're fighting me on everything, you may have to say, okay, I need someone else to mix this. And yeah, it might hurt their ego a little bit, but hey, that's okay. I've had people ask me to send stems. I've mixed other producers' stems. It's just, you got to find your team members that really get you and know how to communicate with you, know how to understand what you want, and that you're happy with, so you get the best product that you want at the end. All right, number 8, the last one. A producer may also be a mentor, not just someone who makes your music, but if they have experience in the industry and they're willing to share insight and wisdom, that is worth grabbing onto. So even better if they can help guide you in the back end of your music business, including marketing and strategies for building a fan base. That's how we do it at VoxVox Productions. If you're curious about it, I have a link in the description below that will take you to an artist branding workbook that I promise you're going to absolutely love. It's a nice little process that will help you figure out what your brand is, what your narrative is, what you want to share with the world, what your aesthetic is going to be. And I can also tell you a little bit more about the mentorship that I can offer you to help you in building your music business. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know what you think about the difference between booking a studio, hiring a producer. Have you ever been caught in a situation where you thought you were doing one but you got the other? I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks again. Have a great day.